You may be seated. Sorry, old habit. My wife gets so tired of that joke when I tell it. Anyway, and my name is Jim Reynolds, and I am one of the 4 district court judges we have here in Broadwater and Lewis and Clark counties, and I preside over the 1st Judicial District Treatment Court. And I was asked to come here and speak about the treatment court today, and I thought, well, did you all want to hear a bunch of statistics, or did you want to hear a bunch of stories? And I'm going to try to mix it up and do a little bit of both. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've lived in Helena for 45 years. I was a lawyer for about 30 years down on Last Chance Gulch. We had our office at the corner of Lawrence and Last Chance, and we were kind of a storefront law firm, helping people, just regular folks that needed help. We weren't dealing with a lot of corporations. We were just dealing with regular people who were running into legal problems. So I did that for 32 years, and then a new position came available for a district court judge here in this district. And some people started talking to me about doing that because I'd been in practice for 30 years and had a pretty broad civil practice. So they were pressuring me to run, and in a moment of weakness, I agreed to. And then in a moment of community foolishness, you folks elected me. And I just got reelected for my 2nd term here this past year. So I've been doing it now for about 6 years. One of the issues that I thought about when I was running was the idea of doing a treatment court here, a drug treatment court. We hadn't had one in this district. We have several around the state, and they've been around the country for about 35 years, but we just didn't have one here. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to go up here and be a judge and do it, I wanted to do some different stuff. I wanted to try some innovative things to deal with some of the issues that we deal with. Now, again, I was a lawyer for 30 years. I didn't do much criminal work. So this whole issue of drug abuse and how it affects people, how it affects our criminal justice system was an eye-opener for me. I didn't have that experience. There is an entire culture, and I'm talking to you folks that maybe don't have any experience with the criminal justice system. There's an entire culture, subculture in our community of people who are involved with drugs and who's, because of their involvement with drugs, they've gotten in trouble with the criminal justice system, and they just kind of float under the radar, or at least from my perspective, they were under the radar. But I thought we needed to try something different. It didn't appear to me that if we were talking about drug abuse, that, from my perspective, is a disease process, not a criminal process. It's a disease process. And we should start looking at it from more of a treatment perspective as opposed to a punitive perspective. And that's where the drug treatment court came into place. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a treatment court. It's a program where we are working with people whose drug addiction has brought them into contact with the criminal justice system. And as a result of that, they are constantly being brought back into the court system. I'm not talking about the kid who gets picked up with a joint on the street corner. I'm talking about people who have been at this for a long time. Our participants are rated as high-risk, high-needs people. And what that means is that they are at high risk for relapsing, well, either into drug use or into criminal behavior. And they are in high needs because they don't have very good community or family support. And I'm going to tell you a couple of heartwarming stories about some of the participants we've had. And so you're going to want to get your Kleenex out. This first story shows what I mean by high needs. And this is one of our first participants. He came into our court when he was 23 years old. He'd been using meth since he was 12. He had 3 felony records by the time he was 22. And he's not a violent guy. He steals and he uses drugs. He steals to use drugs. So I was talking to him, how did you get to where you are? And he told me, and this is where you need to get the Kleenex out, folks. His mother had given him his first meth shot when he was 12. And the reason she did that, it's a heartwarming story, is she knew he was going to use meth because everybody else in the family used meth. He had a brother who was in prison. She used meth. His older sister used meth. The entire family used meth. So she knew he was going to use meth, and she wanted to be sure he knew how to use meth properly. So that's the kind of folks that we're dealing with in a large extent. They have no family support. Another heartwarming story, one of our participants came in and talked to me about her mother calling her up for a birthday party for her stepfather. And this was the inducement to get the participant to go to the birthday party. We are going to have some of the best dope and the best drugs and the best beer that you can have. And to the credit of our participants, he said, Mom, I can't come to that. I can't do that. Don't you know I'm trying to get out of that life? But those are the kind of things that some of our participants face. Another one of our early participants talked about being homeless. She had 2 kids, and she was homeless, and she was couch surfing. And she talked to me about how that was, in her mind, that was a great adventure. They didn't know where they were going to be staying the next night. She's got these little 7-year-old and 9-year-old kid, and they're going from house to house, and she said I told them it was a great adventure. We don't know where we're going to be sleeping tonight. Same participant told me about a mobile home that she lived in, and she said she demonstrated for me how she had to walk down the hallway. She said you had to walk like this down the hallway because the floor was rotted out in this mobile home that she had found. So those are the kind of folks that we're working with. Not all of them, but that's the kind of folks that we're working with. And to me, it just didn't make sense that we were going to continually put these people back into jail over and over again. So we came up with the treatment court. And the treatment court consists of a team. Boy, I can talk about this stuff for about an hour, folks. It's a team of law enforcement, probation officers, prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, a coordinator, treatment providers, myself. Treatment court people have to come, our participants have to come to court every week or every 2 weeks and talk to me. And you may not know it, but I look kind of intimidating when I got my black robe on, I'm sitting on a bench up higher. So they have to come in front of me and they have to tell me how their week has gone. What are you doing? They have to be involved in education, they have to be involved in employment. We have had several of our participants get their GEDs. These are not 17, 18-year-old kids. These are 33, 35, 37-year-old people. They never got their GEDs. I had one guy, not too long ago, got his driver's license. He's 32 years old. This is his first driver's license he's ever had in his life. And he comes to court, kept telling me, I don't want to do it, Judge. I don't do good on those tests. He came to court after he got his driver's license, it's a mile wide because he had passed the test. These folks do not have those kinds of positive experiences in their lives. Our program lasts for about 2 years. People go through phases. As they do good, they move up to the next phase, a little bit less restrictive, a little bit less restrictive. They are subject to urinalysis, random urinalysis. I never used the word urinalysis in my life until I got into drug court. We talk about urinalysis all the time. They're subject to at least 2 of those tests a week on a random basis. They have to report to the probation officer. They have to report to these treatment groups. They have to participate in self-help groups, what you typically think of as NA or AA type of groups. Our goal is to turn people who have been, because of their drug addiction, have been negative participants in our community into positive participants and turn them into good parents and good neighbors, and we are having some success. It's hard work, it's emotional work for the participants and for us. But we're going to keep doing it for a while because we are having some success. We have seen people remarkably turn their lives around through this program. And so I actually am honored to introduce one of our participants right now, a young woman who's done very well in our program, Nicole Wenzel.
Hi, my name's Nicole. As you all know, I'm in treatment court. I have been for the past 18 months, and I've been in recovery for almost 3 years now. I am in no means a public speaker. This is not, if it's up to me, I'd be running the other way. However, a couple months ago, I was asked to speak at Hometown Helena for Youth Connections on prescription drug abuse. It was during that time that I realized that my story is like so many others, and if I could give just one person hope, it was worth me being uncomfortable for a few minutes. So before I get started, I'll tell you a little bit about how I grew up. I'm from Helena. I basically lived here my whole life. I came from a blue-collar family. My parents were both hardworking. They taught us a lot about responsibility, values, and good work ethic. They worked hard for everything we had. I was the oldest of 6 children, and with that came a lot of responsibility. I put a lot on myself to be the best, to not make a mistake, and to be a good role model. Every time I made a mistake, I went to shame. And there's a lot of difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is kind of like that guilty conscience in your head that says, don't do that, that's bad. It kind of keeps us from making mistakes. Shame, on the other hand, it doesn't tell us that that action is bad, but that we are bad. So growing up, every time I made a mistake, I went to, I am bad, I am a failure, I will never amount to anything. And so I lived in shame for a lot of years. As I grew up, I feel like I had a lot of friends, but I never felt okay. I never felt like I fit in. It was my freshman year of high school, and I got my first boyfriend. He was popular, he was on the football team, and for the first time in my life, I felt okay. I felt like I finally fit in. He quickly became my identity, or so I thought. We dated over the next 3 years with ups and downs, and it was my senior year that he passed away in a motocross accident. It was at the beginning of my senior year, and I felt like all eyes were on me, waiting to see what was going to happen next. So I kept pushing through. I never really dealt with it. I continued with high school. I graduated. I signed up to go to college, and I continued working my job. 2 years into college, I developed a pack-a-day cigarette habit and was drinking daily. 2 years into it, I decided something had to change. So I moved back home. I enrolled in college in Helena. I started work again at my old job, and I started seeing a doctor. Well, antidepressants led to prescription pain pills, and prescription pain pills led to more prescription pain pills. It was in 2009 that I got into my first wreck while under the influence of alcohol and prescription pills. And I decided something needed to change. So I stopped drinking alcohol. Problem solved, right? I started justifying my pill use because I was prescribed them. So I tell you this to say that I struggled with smoking, alcohol, and prescription drug abuse for almost 10 years. It slowly robbed me of my dignity, my self-worth, my ability to be a mother and a wife and a sister and a daughter. Slowly, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. And while I wanted a way out, I didn't know how. At that point, I didn't want to stay in it, but I saw no way out of it. But I'm here today to tell you that there is hope. I feel like everyone struggles with something, whether it's low self-esteem, depression, anger, addiction, whatever it may be, there is hope. And I found that in my Savior, Jesus Christ. Today, I feel like I am forgiven. I have a new purpose to my life. As I've gone through the treatment program, everyone that's helped me along the way, the judge, counselors, the treatment team, they all think I'm a success story, and they don't know how I'm doing it. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of support from family, from my husband, who's never given up on me throughout this entire journey, even though it's been anything but easy. He's been by my side the whole time. And with us too, and our faith in God, we've gotten through it. And I just stand here today to tell you that there is hope. There's freedom from addiction or whatever you're struggling with. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's helped me along the way.